Hey gang, here we are modeling the Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo. I'm going to create a cube, create polygon primitives cube. And this time around, I'm going to hit W, my hotkey for movement, and I'm going to work from the bottom up. So using R, that's a hotkey for scale. I'll scale along the Z-axis and now along the x-axis. And I think what I'm going to do is create some more detail by increasing divisions. So I will drag that along and think about how many I need in each direction, because I'm not always sure about this. It's trial and error, at least for me. The more you do this, the more you get comfortable with it. So I'm thinking about the number of divisions, because we've got the front and the back of those wheel welds on each of the wheels. So I think I'll do that. Let's see. Now I'm zooming in using the middle mouse scroll wheel. And on second thought, I think I'm going to get rid of these extra height divisions. I can always go back and add some edge loops later. Yeah, okay. That's what I'm gonna do, okay. So now I'm going into vertex mode. I did a right click to get that menu, and I'm just marquee selecting that region, and then I did R to scale those out along the x-axis. In the bottom rung, I'm scaling it in along the x-axis, and I'm tweaking that again, hitting W for the entire object. So F8 toggles between component and object mode. Marquee drag, again I'm scaling that in, and I want these vertices to line up and match the grid, but I have symmetry turned on, so that's why I'm having issues with that right now. So if I E, left middle mouse button click, that's that menu. So now I turned the symmetry off. I'm able to freely drag those center vertices over. And I'm just massaging this, moving the bottom vertices down. I'm marquee, I'm grabbing that front vertex of the car, and just whenever you have detail, you've got to massage it and do as much as you can with the detail that you have before moving on and extruding. So I'm lining that up with the wheel weld. And that's just good old-fashioned W and marquee dragging right there. And if you'll notice, since I'm using orthographic views, I'm grabbing something in my side view, but if you look at the top view, you can see the entire row being manipulated all the way back. So that's why I like having all four views open, so that you know that what you think you're grabbing is what you are actually grabbing. And it looks like I'm iterating, so I'm saving this. First iteration. Okay. One down. So if I ever need to come back, I can always do that. Okay. So right click, select face. And a trick I like to use is marquee selecting a little bit more than I need in the side view, and then control marquee selecting what I don't want underneath it, so that I can get that top section of faces easily. And so now I'm extruding that up. I did a control E. Okay, zooming in, little mouse scroll, and F8 to go back into component mode, and now I am massaging the vertices that I just created. And I don't like that those vertices are not in line. So I am using the X key to snap multiple vertices to the grid, and then that way I will have a nice horizontal line of vertices. And so I'm marquee dragging those, and I'm snapping all of those up and then pulling it back down. So, I mean, I guess you could have just eyeballed the vertices and lined them up, but at least this way I know, I 100% know that they are all flush. Okay, so let's work on the side view and expand that. And so I'm just moving the vertices. I could have turned on symmetry, but I just did that. And eyeballed it. Ah, okay, yeah. I think I'm going to undo what I just did and turn symmetry on. We'll see if I'm right. And that's using a transform hotkey. So W left mouse button will bring up that menu, or E for rotate, left mouse button click. And then you can easily access the tool settings for the transform. Okay, so I'm in face mode, so that's F9. No, actually that's F11. Okay, and extrude, I can either control E or hit G if the last thing I did was an extrusion. Okay. All right. So that's object mode, moving the whole thing around. I think what I'm doing is adjusting the reference image because the window doesn't fall in the same spot in the side view and the front view. So just by adjusting the positioning of the reference image, I'm conserving some sanity so that I'm not constantly second guessing myself. And I think I'll move the reference image back down again later. Okay, so I still have symmetry on, and the symmetry is reflecting so that if I click something on the right side of the x-axis, then it grabs the mirror image of it. So if I wanted to do mirroring for the side view, then that would be the z-axis, and so on and so forth. Okay, so time to save. I've shaped what I have extruded. Okay. Think. What to do. Okay. So, more shaping before I move on, lining things up with the seams. And so that's just W right there. And you use the Alt button for camera controls to pan or tilt around. Okay. So I'm adding some edge loops. So I clicked along the horizontal line to create a vertical edge loop. And I'm doing this because I'm anticipating the window that I'm about to create because I'm going to extrude upwards. And yeah, let's add an edge loop for that crease right there too. I'm sure I will move those vertices a little bit. So F8 to toggle between the component modes, or F9 to directly go into vertex mode, and then W, and I'm control marquee dragging to deselect a vertex. Okay, so I'm moving that over a little bit. Okay, checking everything out. Okay, let's take a look. See, okay, so I marquee dragged more faces from the side that I needed, and then I control marquee dragged to get rid of the extra so that I just got that top row, and then control E for the extrusion again. I'm going to do that to the top of the window. And scaling that, okay, what's going on? Let's undo that. Okay, we can go into vertex mode and have more direct control. Let's do that. Okay, perfect. So I got it from the front view. Now I'm moving the reference image back down so that the top edge of the window lines up again. And maybe tweak it a little more. I still have symmetry on. Okay, now let's look at the side view. Let's move that one in just to shape it some more. Oops. We definitely want that vertex to follow the edge of the window much better than it was. There we go. Okay, let's pull that over. And more W movement hotkey. And later I'll extrude that front window in, so it's okay that it's just following the exterior edge as opposed to the window edge. Okay. Looks like I'm doing another extrude. Yes. That was a funky zoom in. Okay. Yeah, this mouse wheel is really sensitive. I think I hit F to zoom in on those vertices specifically. So again, shaping it to follow along that crease. And W. But it seems like the pattern is, you know, have an object, figure out how many subdivisions to start with, and extrude and shape it. And I'm bouncing back and forth between object mode and component mode, and also working in side view and then working in front view and then extruding some more. And I'm trying to convert this vertex selection into that top layer of faces, but it did more than I wanted when I control clicked on that face button in the modeling toolkit. So I think I just deselected the extra and then kept going, because that's what you do. Okay. Now this part I think I attempted, and then I tried it a different way, and then, so anyway, it took me a little bit to get this top edge with the right detail. But that's why you save iteratively. Say that word 10 times fast. yeah, adjusting that reference image. If my reference image is matched perfectly, then I could put it in a layer and then just make it so that I can't click it. Okay. So it's just tedious. That worked way better. Did you see that? I had the vertices selected and then I clicked on the face button and I did exactly what I wanted at the time. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, okay, do I just pull that all the way to the top or do I insert a division right here? Because if I do that, then I have to pull these vertices over a pretty good ways. Okay, so we'll try that. But that's really boxy in the back. Again, I just don't like that I have that many vertices stacked in that one spot. Just seems like too much detail for that section, whereas it curves. So still trying to tweak it. Yeah, I was pulling that edge up to make sure that I didn't have any double extrudes. If you Control Z and you're just kind of going back and forth, definitely just pull a vertex, pop it up, and make sure that it pulls everything with it and that you didn't have a face stacked on top of each other, because that makes UVing not so good. So instead of extruding the entire layer after I finesse this a little bit, I just pull up the faces that I want. I think I did it, maybe I did an extrude one last time. Anyway, this is much better. curvature looks better from the side than it does the front. It's still boxy on the edges. So looks like I'm undoing again, which is fine. That's kind of how this process goes. If I did it perfectly, made everything look easy, then how much would you guys actually learn? Sorry, the mouse scroll wheel is really sensitive in the office. Okay, good. Those vertices pull up what I think they pull up. And there's not as many extrudes this time around. That's way better. And instead of having all those vertices stacked at the back, I pull them forward a little bit. Okay, so it's not as boxy in the back, and it still looks okay from the front. So that took a couple iterations and some undos. Save. Excellent time to save. Okay. So let's work on that section near the wheels, because right now there's no cutout for them. Okay, so F9 to go into face mode, and I am just deleting the window faces, and if I decide that I want to fill that hole later, it's really easy, so it's not that big of a deal if I change my mind. But for now, let's just have nothing there. Okay, looks like symmetry's still on. There we go. So that's the other way to do it if you don't want another hotkey to memorize. And I hit T to toggle the extrude gizmo versus the regular gizmo. The extrude gizmo is relative to the orientation of those faces. So if you want to move something orthogonal at a certain angle as opposed to along the orientation of those faces, then you can just hit W or something and it will modify your extrusion using that hotkey as opposed to having a different orientation. So I'm trying to create a little outer edge for the window and then pulling it back and scaling it down. There we go. See how I'm pulling it orthogonally back as opposed to at an angle along the orientation of the window. So that's when you would hit W. And I deleted those. You can see more of the reference image now. Save. Oh yes, save. And you can hit enter to make that dialog box go quickly. For instance, when you're referencing on a lot of files and you get like 9 of them in your face, just hold down the enter key until it disappears. You won't mess anything up if you do that. Okay, it's time for more detail. Insert edge loop. And what I'm going to do is punch out a section for the wheel, and then eventually I'm going to also cut out the middle portion towards the bottom where the axle would be. Now, I don't actually model the axle, but it works. Okay. So I still have symmetry because you can see the vertices being selected on both sides in the top view, and the gizmo is in the middle of the car, so I know that it's got something else other than just the right side of the vehicle being selected. That's another telltale sign that you have symmetry on. So I'm shaping that to be closer to where the axle would be. And there's more detail on the front wheel than the back. That's fine. I used to be such a perfectionist and worry about that I had an extra edge loop or something, and it's fine. We needed that extra loop for the door anyway. Okay, so I am in face mode, F9, and I just was shift clicking, and I hit R instead of using the regular gizmo. Now I'm scaling it in. So I'm making it smaller before I'm punching it deeper. And I don't like that orientation, so that's why I'm using my W. And I want to make sure that it goes back. Oh, look at that. Okay, so since I do have symmetry, if I move it, then they both move in the same direction. But I can kind of trick it into doing what I want. In a moment, I'll figure out that I can scale it. And since its pivot is centered between them, then that does the same thing. I don't have to turn off my symmetry. Ha ha ha. But I just rotated it around, and looks like somewhere along the way I didn't have symmetry all the way on, or I didn't grab something, or I wasn't looking at my top view. So I'm not worried, because what I can do is actually delete one half of the car and then mirror image it. So we will do that later. So I noticed that there's a mistake, but we will address it later. So if you run to that, there's ways to problem solve. And yeah, look at that that back wheel does not match at all. But I will at least get it the way that I want for one side, save it before I do the chop suey, and then we'll keep going. Okay, so I am marquee selecting those faces, and I just hit delete. Half of the car is gone. So F8, that put things in object mode. And I'm looking for the mirror option. So it's under mesh, mirror. Okay. So it's reflecting over the x-axis. And it says merge the border vertices. That's definitely something we want, so we don't have to weld all of those together. And look, we have a full car again. Okay, yeah, it's about time I name this thing. And iterate because I liked that mirroring. Okay. Okay, face mode, F9. Now I'm going to select which faces I want to give the chop suey. I could do the paint selection or the lasso selection. Paint selection is always adding to your selection, so you don't have to hold down shift. But if I just go back to the marquee or the lasso, this is the lasso selection, and I'll just go back to regular select, which is fine. But anyway, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So I'm just punching out that middle hole where the axle would be, and delete, and that's fine. And I'm deleting those other faces, and it didn't do what I thought it would on the other side, so I'll mirror the geometry again later. Or maybe I'll turn symmetry on. That works too. Yeah, okay, symmetry was off. Encore. Yep, selection looks good. And die. Double checking. I could grab it from the top, but I think I'll just grab it from perspective view in this case and just eyeball it and make sure I don't have anything else selected that looks, yeah, yep, deleted that. Back wheel. So again, I'll just go ahead and grab those in the middle too and delete those. So now I have space for my wheels. And save time. Number 7. Now that I've deleted these, I have some vertices that need to get some, you know, some repair, if you will. So I'm in vertex mode, F8, and what I'm going to do is use the snapping mode where you snap to a vertex so that they can get welded together. And I think if something doesn't merge together, make sure that symmetry is turned off, because the math is a little funky if you've got more things selected. So I just did W left mouse button click and then highlighted over symmetry to turn that off. And then if I hit C, when I have my move tool activated, and I was right clicking and that menu popped up. Disregard that. That was a screw up. So, vertex snapping mode. There we go. Now I have to select both of those, and only those, 2 vertices, and merge them. So I think it's, yeah, edit mesh, merge. Let's see, yes, no, let's see. Snap those 2 together. Okay. Marquee, select those. Woo. Okay, I've only got those 2, that's good. And then edit mesh, merge, or I could hit the G key because if that's the last tool that you've used, it will repeat that. And notice when I move that, they both move together. That's what I want. And I don't think you can do this with symmetry. Unfortunately, you kind of gotta go in and weld these together. Boring. Okay, C. And I think I did control space and another control space. I was trying to see if I wanted to make my window bigger. Come on. Turn on snap mode. There we go. Okay, marquee drag. And whoops, I grabbed too much. There we go. Control marquee. Oh, nope, there's some more. There we go. Now, edit mesh, merge. Okay, same thing. Okay, good, I didn't grab anything else. And I'm just keeping those menus out there for easy access. Doink. Notice how there's a yellow circle at the center of the gizmo? That is an indicator that the snap to vertex mode is enabled. Whoops, I accidentally hit F11 because I'm on a Mac and it needs to be Control F11 if I want to go to face mode. And so I just quickly deleted that left half and changed my mind. I'm going to save it first and then do that. Okay, let's look at all of this history. I did edit, delete all by type history and modify freeze transforms to clear out the transforms so that they're zeroed out. And now I'm going to save that. So that's just some good housekeeping. Now I'm going to try and work on these metal railings up at the top. So face mode, F9. Okay. And this time I like the fact that the gizmo is relative to the face because I like the shape that I have for the roof. I want to keep it. So I'm going to use these transforms within the extrude gizmo and move that along and try to get it closer to my reference. So now I just hit W because I want it vertical. I don't want it off at an angle. So anyway, I'm hitting T and W to switch back and forth between the two. And so it looks like it's got a platform and then there's something else welded into it, so I'm scaling it down, and I could do the offset to scale it down, or if I just want finer control, I'll just use the tools. Nope. There we go. But I want it smaller than that. Just trying to type in some numbers here. There we go. That looks more like a square. Okay, so I extrude it again, hit G, and then W to pull this up. Just trying to mess with the divisions so that I could avoid manually inserting an edge loop, but I really should have changed the number of divisions right when I did the extrude if I wanted to do that. So I'm just going to make these vertices a little bit more horizontal and move that over, W, pull that over. That looks better. Okay, now I'm going to insert edge loop. Mesh tools, insert edge loop. That way I can start going to the left. So F9 to go into face mode. There we go. Okay, I was in edge mode. Okay, and I could do Control E or G. So I'm going back to face mode. There we go. Okay, I hit G to extrude. And I want this to snap to the very center. So when I hit X, the center of the gizmo changes. And then it snaps to the very middle. So I'm going to save that. Or rather, it snaps to the closest grid line, but I specifically want it to be in the middle. And we will do our chop the geometry in half trick later, but in the meantime I'm moving the reference back, because if it stays where it was, I wouldn't be able to see the vertices being extruded upwards because it was behind the image. So anyway, I pulled it back. So here we go. Let's do the other one. Okay. F9 for face. Control E for extrude. And I moved it along, but I need to scale it to, there we go. That way it's not popping out beyond the shape of the car. And again, I'm using these relative controls that are in the extrude gizmo. Zooming in a little bit. Trying to match the size. The width of these edge loops were a bit wider than the ones up front, but that's okay. Okay, so I did another extrude, Control E, because I'm trying to make it smaller, and then I will extrude it upwards. Okay. but everything needs to move over. At least when I'm looking in the front view, you could tell it needs to move over to the right, but fixing the top vertices first by rotating those. So I'm marquee selected from the top. Unfortunately, I don't have anything else underneath that I could have accidentally grabbed. So I'm going to move those over. W. Much better. Get that a little more flush with the top of the van. Now let's fix the tippy top vertices. And again, that insert edge loop so that I can pull things out to the left or towards the center of the van. So F9 for face mode. And Control E and hit W because I don't want it to be relative to my face. I want it to be orthogonal. And then use X to snap that to the grid. But I think I'll have to do that individually, which is fine. And let's go in and grab that one on the left first and hit X and then move those over. So that will help with our mirroring later. So save. Okay. So now I'm making that little wheel that's on the front of the van. So I just extruded that out. And now for the fender, and then we'll do the bumper next. You can scale it or fiddle with the offset. I'm seeing which one I like better. I'll probably just shape it with the vertices. I'm trying to grab the reference plane, but I was in component mode, so I needed to toggle back and either hit F8 or right click, go into object mode so that I could grab that. Okay, now I can see the back. Right click face. Control E. I used the gizmo relative and then changed my mind and said, nope, I want to hit W and do it that way instead. F8 vertice mode, shaping that a little bit. Now it's time for the wheels. So I did a polygon primitive cylinder. Here's a trick to do discrete rotation. So if you double click on the rotation tool setting, and you click that little triangle on the left, let's try relative. And you could do 45-degree increments, you could do 90-degree increments, and notice how I'm dragging it around, but it doesn't actually do anything until it reaches that threshold and then it snaps. So I'm scaling it, moving it over. I think I'm going to move my reference plane back again so I can see my wheel. So I have to make sure I'm in object mode to do that. Okay, now I'm positioning my wheel and zooming. Pulling that down, W, and looking in my side view, centering it on the little circle of the flower, scaling it up, and some more W, try to make sure it's not bumping into the indentation underneath. And let me name this front on left wheel underscore geo. And let's revisit our friend, the duplicate special. These numbers correspond with the units, so if I translate it by 4 or -4 along the x-axis, okay, so I need to go the other way and do -4. So undid that. -4. Ta-da! And move it over a little bit. Okay. Looks like I'm going to do the mirroring trick again. I don't think I welded the top rack vertices. Okay, so let's save this. Move that over because it was touching a little bit. It was a little too close to the geometry. And we'll call that front right wheel, and we'll get rid of the number. Control G, group those. And we'll do another duplicate special and duplicate that entire group backwards along the z-axis, just to save a little bit of time. So we'll do these as back wheels. Get rid of the 1 and edit some naming convention. Back. And one more. One more. There we go. F back. There we go. Back. Save. let's get a reference letter. Let's put those in there. So right click, add selected objects, and just turn off visibility if you want. That's what that view did. Now I'm going to weld these vertices together. And that was a misclick, so don't worry about that menu. Okay, gotta make sure I only have those selected. So that's just the tedious part about this, making sure, and then doing it. And I just hit G because that was the last thing. So it did the merge tool again. And that does not need welding, but I needed to double check. And I grabbed too much. Control marquee drag to get rid of that extra. Yay, front view to get rid of that other vertex. Almost done, guys. Yep, deselect that. And whoop. Yeah, okay, that's all it is. Like I said, double checking. I'm just moving it and then Control Z. Save. Deleting history, edit, delete all by type history, modify, freeze transforms, and there you go.